listening to the Bruin Bible. This is your host, Will Decker, bringing you UCLA football content all throughout the year for LA Football Network.
What is up, LA Football Network? Will Decker, your host. Live from Pac-12 Media Day, I got my guy to my left, Ryan Dyrud, founder of LAFB, and special guest of the show, my Pac-12 brethren. We worked in the back room editing highlights for 12 hours a day.
Living the dream.
At Pac-12. My guy, former Stanford defensive tackle, Mr. Jordan Watkins in the house. Waddy, what's good, bro? It's great to see you.
What's going on? I'm so happy that we had this chance to catch up. I know we were texting a little, a few days ago. Like, hey, you going to be down there? And see if we could catch up. But, no, this has been awesome. And like you said, it's a lot different being here versus being up in the studio for a 12-hour day, just cutting B-rolls and stuff for it, right? It's kind of cool being out here in the moment.
Was it 12 hours? Will likes to exaggerate things a little bit. Like I think
it was.
We kept getting in later last night every time.
So the funny thing is, it was actually that's shortcutting it sometimes. Like
wow,
you get in
it was long days, dude.
Yeah, like you get in maybe around 9 or 10. You're not leaving until after midnight, so.
Wow.
Yeah, there's some days.
Long days, man, back in the Pac-12 days. But this is your first Pac-12 Media Days, right?
Yeah, first one.
First Pac-12 Media Day for my guy, Waddy. We were out here last year in Los Angeles, so this will be our second one. Always a great event.
Second and last, apparently.
Second and last for us.
For us.
We'll be heading the Big Ten after this, so a lot more to look forward to with that. But being the last one, it's a very special one. You know what I mean? And you just kind of feel the spirit of some of the universities. Like I went to a Pac-12 school at Arizona State. You know, I've gotten to meet the coach of ASU, Kenny Dillingham, seen all the different coaches. We had lunch with Dan Lanning today, University of Oregon. You just have cool experiences you can't really get anywhere else. How has the first Pac-12 Media Day been for you?
Oh, no, this has been great. Obviously it's spent a lot of time with the Stanford people out here, but like you said, interacting with a little bit of everybody. I ran into Dan Lanning yesterday and told him, I remember you from your time at Georgia. So that's where I'm from, right outside Atlanta. And even when I saw him today, he was coming up from the main stage. And just, jokingly, I asked him, I was like, there's no Waffle House in Oregon. So, what are you doing to get over that, right? I was just at home for a week, and I think I had Waffle House 4 times.
Waffle House.
Game changer.
It's the spot, So, just, joking with him about stuff like that, meeting all other different people in the media. It's been a bunch of fun.
It's been super cool, man. And I met Bruce Feldman today for college football. You just meet people, you look for on Twitter, just different scenarios like that. Let's take it to the top. The first team we got to meet with today was Utah. Kyle Whittingham came out, Cam Rising, the 2-time defending champs within the Pac-12 as a whole. They look like they're reloading again. Cam Rising ahead of schedule on the injury. Where do you guys have them finishing in the Pac? Because until someone dethrones them, they're kind of the de facto team. I know USC, finished the preseason poll as number 1, but Utah, until I see it, Utah still owns the heir to the throne, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Coach Whittingham's program that I've been so amazed with ever since I've been involved with the Pac-12, basically since 2012, the consistency.
Yeah.
And in terms of their approach, right? Every single school or program you look around the country, not even just in the Pac-12, you switched up your offensive style, your defensive style, things like that. But their attention to detail and their sense of physicality. We always used to say, back when I was playing at Stanford, there's one other team in that conference that could match our physicality. And that's when we were running the ball 40, 50 times a game.
Oh, yeah.
And it was Utah. So the fact that they still are like that, that's 11 years now later down the road, it's incredible to me. And I feel like at the end of the day, I'm always going to pick a team that I know can be consistent. I know what product they're going to put in on a week-to-week basis. So, yeah, I'm with you on that in terms of I'd have to go with them, too, until I'm proven otherwise.
Until we're proven otherwise. What do you think about the Utes? Whittingham, classically, understated, comes in here. Just a very high vibe guy.
Wore a jacket today.
Wore a nice-looking jacket today. Was kind of mingling with us, said what's up in the food line here. What do you think about Utah coming into next year? Because SC, 2 tough losses to them last year when they had a sizable lead in that. I can't put USC over them until they get over that hump, until I see it.
I honestly, and this is all preseason speculation, but I only have SC in front of them because they play them in Los Angeles. If it was in Utah again, I think it'd be a different story because they are so good at home. Their home versus away record, they're almost 500 on the road, and they're basically unbeaten at Rice Eccles out in Salt Lake City. So, but such a phenomenal program, just what they're able to do. And, we joke about all the time, like if you're scripting a football coach for a movie, that's Kyle Whittingham.
Absolutely.
Like, he just looks like he's on Friday Night Lights and loves it and gets in and gets out, but super friendly guy. But I still think they're for sure, I think, a top 3 or 4 team in this conference. Yeah. And what's been kind of their Achilles heel, and maybe you guys could probably correct me more, but I feel like they just always start slow. Yeah. And whether it be an out-of-conference game, the loss to Florida last year, or 2 years ago with kind of the quarterback waffling, and then they end up going to Cam Rising, if they could start quick how they finish, I mean, they could be in the college football playoff almost every single year. So it's going to be how they start. If they start strong, then they're a top 1 or 2 team. But if they do that slow start again, then we'll kind of see them in that 3 or 4 range.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch. A lot of weapons. Micah Pittman, famously transferring there from Florida State. Devon Velley coming back. Jaquindon Jackson was kind of the wild card for them. A converted quarterback that transferred from LSU to Utah that is now a running back and lit it up last year, 6.8 yards per carry. Let's get to the second team we saw, and the team that is heavily favored. We just mentioned them, USC. And this guy is our USC guy. He covers them. He gets to go to the home games. I want to hear your opinion on what you saw from Lincoln Riley. Caleb Williams today, spoke to the media, defending Heisman Trophy winner. One of the most loaded transfer portal teams in the nation, arguably number 1. Is this team finally in a place where you think they can start competing for national championships again?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it all the time on our show, and obviously we talk about it with the network, and a ton of excitement around this program. You can tell, Lincoln and Coach Riley has a lot of confidence. I think there's a lot of coaches, not a lot of coaches, but every coach, depending how you ask them, they'll kind of give you the coach's answer, but then you can tell in their demeanor like how convicted they are in that answer, and you can tell he feels about his front 7 is 100 times better this year than it was last year. The offensive line is going to retool, which a lot of people maybe haven't seen transfers coming out on that side, but I think he feels confident in that. Obviously, the weapons are, maybe one of the deepest running back rooms and receiver rooms in the entire conference, and when you have, Caleb throwing the ball, it certainly helps. So I think a lot of confidence, but I liked his honesty and someone asking him about, is there a little bit of melancholy about, leaving the Pac-12? Yeah. And you figured he'd say, kind of beat around the bush, but we're excited. But he was, very honest, there is. We know this is the last time we're going to play some of these programs. We know the history. Does it give us a little added edge? Yes, it does, because we want to go out on top and leave this conference with a legacy of being the last Pac-12 champs. And so I really appreciated that honesty from him. And, obviously still saying we're excited about the Big Ten and stuff like that, but just a lot of excitement around the program, and and Caleb, and then we'll toss it over. But and Mason, first of all, Mason Cobb is just going to eat people.
He looks fantastic.
He's I saw him in the food line too, and I was going to go say hi. And I'm I'm going to let him eat his food first. I don't want to get in the way there. I'm a pretty small human being.
Now when he's hungry, right?
Yeah, I'm a pretty small human being.
Let's
get him go. Yeah, exactly. Don't mess with big people when they're hungry. But yeah, so good, and he's just one of many missing pieces the defense had last year, but I think he'll fit in perfectly. And I remember talking to Lincoln after the spring game and him saying, if you can get yourself a Mason Cobb, you're a better football team. He was just glowing about him. And then in terms of Caleb, you can kind of tell he's getting sick of the media hustle. He's been the spotlight of college football now for a year and a half, and you can kind of tell he's let's just do my thing and get out of here. But, I don't think it's going to affect his play by any means.
No, but arguably, I was thinking back, he is the most talented quarterback I've ever seen as a fan of the Pac-12. Just what he has from top to bottom in terms of talent. We talked about the transfers, Bear Alexander coming in, Anthony Lucas coming from Texas A&M. You just have guys on guys, Marshawn Lloyd coming from South Carolina. Do you feel like all the pieces are in place? Because last year was supposed to be the year that they were trying to feel out the process, and they were essentially a game away from making the college football playoff. Is it national championship or bust for USC this year?
Well, I feel like the standard's been set, right? And it's like you said, year one, whenever you can make a big change in year one like that, and of course, there's another school that did that we'll talk about a little bit later, right, with Oregon. When you set that standard year one, it's kind of hard not to, especially at a place like USC. And, I think, going back to last year, you talk about deep skill group then too, right? Obviously Travis Dye comes in from Oregon, Austin Jones comes in from Stanford, Jordan Addison from Pitt. You had all these weapons all over last year too. But, it's like you said, you talk about the front 7 and the offensive line. I think that was the big missing part for USC. I know they've really addressed it, and I really do think that, especially with someone like Mason Cobb coming in from Oklahoma State, if you can continue to turn people over the way they did last year, one of the best turnover defenses in the country, and then also do have a consistent defense with that as well, instead of helping the turnover bails you out, then you're absolutely talking about national championship aspirations.
Let's keep it on Stanford.
Sure,
new head coach Troy Taylor in there today. How do you like the new coach? How is the alumni adjusting to the new coach? Sacramento State, we've had David Shaw there for close to a decade, about a decade, honestly. So talk to me about Taylor and how you guys are feeling about the hire.
Yeah, honestly, I even before today, I had a chance to talk to Coach Taylor a couple of times, and every single time I leave a conversation with him, I leave it more excited. And, you think, too, about this. Everywhere he's been, at least when he's leading a program, he's turned it around. Even going back to the high school level, he was at Folsom High School up in, Sacramento area. They weren't really that good. He turns them into a powerhouse. You go to Sacramento State on the FCS level, same thing. They're not really thought of that much as like this big-time program. Coach Taylor is in there, and, they're in the 1C going in the FCS playoffs. Also, I think one thing I'm excited about, too, is just it's going to be a completely different style of game, especially on the offensive side. Everyone – no, Stanford, we've always wanted to be that ground and pound, think of the power football days, bring down that play clock. But now it's going to be a lot of up-tempo, no huddle. Some people refer to his offense as a receiver's dream, which is, that's going to be something different. Then also I'm excited to see how he's going to use guys like E.J. Smith, who can be, he's a running back by position, but we see the theme in football, you're not really just a running back, you're an offensive weapon, where you can line up in the slot, line up outside, or you're in the backfield. So, no, I'm really excited to see, how things are going to come, how he sets the foundation this year for then, once he gets his classes coming in, how's that all going to look? Yeah,
and Humphreys, we saw his answer. He looked like a kid on Christmas morning as a wide receiver for Stanford, just going, hey, this is the offense. It's a dream for me. I am going to get the ball. I'm going to get it in space. I'm going to be able to make plays. You couple that with Benjamin Urasic coming back, who I think isn't being talked about enough, one of the better tight ends within the Pac-12. Stanford, we got to come to you for those responses, man. So love talking about the Cardinal. Let's shift it to some of the other teams. Oregon, Washington. These are, kind of the other contenders near the top if we're talking about big-time teams and players. Washington, to me, I think may have a little bit of an edge over Oregon because you got Penix, and then you got the weapons on top of that. McMillan and Odunze, that's probably the best wide receiver duo in the entire country. And you pair that with, they've probably got the best edge rusher in the entire conference, and Braylon Trice. This team has it all. Kalen DeBoer is such an underrated coach. Give me your guys' thoughts on Washington. I'll start with you this time. Penix Jr., can he take Washington to the top?
He was probably the biggest Heisman snub last year, or finalist snub last year anyway. But led the nation in passing, and, they won 9 or 10 games, and somehow it wasn't a finalist. But, the kid can flat out play. You talk about great transfers that our teams we cover, UCLA and USC, have gotten. Penix might be the best of all of them at this point, outside of Caleb Williams. And so tons of talent, and I think Kalen DeBoer, what he's built in such a quick time, kind of similar. Lincoln Riley had the pedigree, obviously, but Kellen DeBoer, how quickly he turned that program back around was, I don't think anyone expected it to be that quick. So, absolutely, I think they're a true contender, and when you have that quarterback back there and that coach, I think they can do a lot of damage.
There's a case that they got 4 of maybe the best 8 players in the entire conference coming back, so it's big. What do you think about the Dubs?
I kind of put them and Oregon, I know we'll get to them in a second, I put them in a similar theme as I do USC. Again, it's like, offensively, we know what you're about. We know what you have. We know what you're bringing back. What can you do on the defensive side of the ball to consistently get things going? Obviously, Will, I was talking to you about this earlier. The whole shot throw that I saw Michael Penix make against Oregon. Opposite hash. You're throwing into that cover 2 hole. First off, not many people would even think about trying to make that throw, let alone put it on the money like that, right? Then that was one of maybe 5 or 6 big time throws he made in that game. So, offensively, they're going to be exciting. And, of course, home field advantage. Good luck finding 5 maybe better, louder crowds than what goes on up there at Montlake. So, I think that it's going to be interesting. Like you said, Penix led the country in passing last year. And I think a lot of people kind of forgot how good he was because, remember, he had the injuries at Indiana. But before that, it was like, okay, he's helping Indiana kind of get back on the map up there. Yeah, so
they had that 1 year.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, he reminded everyone about that last year. So now it's really going to be a lot of eyes on him.
And correct me if I'm wrong, this was an old tale back at Pac-12. I think all the people were asking you, what was the best place to play at? What was your favorite place to play?
Yeah.
You said UW was your favorite place to play at. Is that correct?
Yeah, I thought it was just awesome.
It's beautiful.
Because it's beautiful. You're right there on the water. People are sailgating. That was
sailgating.
That was the first time I ever heard that phrase, right? Was when I went up there.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, the crowd's on you. They have it like built straight up. Sound bounces down, so it's super loud. No, it was incredible. So yeah, that was up there. Oregon State was like my sneaky pick.
Yeah,
not a lot of people talk about Reser and how loud that can get too. But no, Husky Stadium is an awesome place to see a game.
I think that's a good segue into Oregon State. That was our sleeper from last year. We went to Pac-12 Media Day. We saw Jonathan Smith. I'm like, this is better than a 6-win team. We'll see what happens. I didn't know if it was going to be 10 wins and beating a Florida and a Vegas Bowl type of situation. Yeah. But this team is legit, and they added former 5-star quarterback, Clemson guy, DJU. But he may not even be the starter, which is crazy. Aiden Childs, this freshman quarterback they had, is getting rave reviews out of camp where it's going to make it a competition of sorts where DJU may not have the long leash that we think he may have. Losing some talent at wide receiver. Defense is coming back. You told me before this you want to see how the running game kind of adapts. I'm all in on Oregon State. I think Jonathan Smith is one of the most underrated coaches in the entire country. I said about DeBoer, Jonathan Smith deserves some SEC love if he gets back-to-back 10-win seasons at Oregon State. Sure. Come on. I'll start with you on this. What do you think about the Beavers, man?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's always fun to see any program that, they start from one level and then you see over time. One, I think it's awesome when you see a university stick with somebody, let them build and have time to build, what they can build. Which, you see Oregon State, they're getting rewarded for it, right? I mean, talk about 10-1 season, you beat Florida. You got the renovations coming into Reser this year that look
beautiful
great.
Looking stadium.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
It was loud with 30,000 fans. Imagine it.
That's what I'm saying. And that chainsaw going every third down, that still rings in my head from when we played up there. But no, I tell you what, it's I told you, whenever you can see a team where you can consistently know what they're going to give you a week in, week out basis, it's so hard to count them out. And, that's what Oregon State now has become. And, we'll see what happens with this quarterback situation because, a lot of people, they might remember DJ. Remember, he was on QB1 on Netflix.
Yeah.
Because he replaced
Bosco,
John Bosco.
Yeah. So, ever since then, I know he's had, big shoes to fill. It didn't work out as he would have wanted at Clemson. But sometimes all you need is that fresh start. So who knows what will happen.
We're rooting for the kid. What do you think about Oregon State coming in this year? Do you think 9 and 10 wins is in the ballpark once again for the Beavers?
Yeah, totally. I think it'll be interesting to see, like you mentioned, how the QB position irons out. But that's not a bad thing if he loses the job. I think that just shows how much talent the young kid has. What's a bummer for that program is it's just going to be so hard for them to hang on to Jonathan Smith for a long time. You hope he stays, but you can't blame him for taking a big-name job, which he's going to get probably if he has another successful season. But just so well coached. Any team that's that well coached, and you've watched them build that foundation, as you mentioned, year over year, and just every year get a little bit better. You're like, all right, this is the year they're going to break out. Last year was that year, and now I just think they ride that. And they're my, Pac-12 pick, not to win it, but to be in the championship.
Sure.
Wow, yeah, Beavers, I could see it, man. If DJU hits I think he can, I think there's a good chance he could be in the Pac-12 championship. Let's pivot to the Oregon Ducks, man. Oregon Ducks, Bo Nix coming back. Speaking of Heisman snubs right there, Bo Nix, really solid year. I mean, we remember as UCLA fans that covered him, absolutely destroyed us in that game. 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions.
Could not stop him.
Unbelievable.
Could not stop him.
And it was watching an iteration of Tim Tebow because he had 28 touchdowns, 14 rushing touchdowns. And the way they used him in the red zone last year, where they just rushed the ball to him, it was like a right-handed Tebow, which was very fun to watch. He's got a better deep ball, better touch, in my opinion.
Sure.
But I think that's why NFL draft scouts are back in on because he's got that little mobility that all these quarterbacks had. Maybe he's not, your Lamar Jackson out there, but he can move the ball on his legs. Give me your thoughts on the Ducks heading into this year.
Yeah, well, I think all the you can call them old heads, haters, whatever, the people that don't like the transfer portal, seeing Michael Penix Jr., seeing Bo Nix, seeing DJU, hopefully, it's what makes the transfer portal great because these guys found a new home, found a new system, found kind of a new family, if you will, and absolutely resurrected their careers. And, he's probably, if he has a year at least on par of last year, will be probably a top draft pick. But, I mean, Dan Lanning, I think, in a way surprised me as a first-year coach. I thought, obviously, a lot of talent in Oregon, a lot of hype no matter what, but outside of some poor end-of-game decision-making, I thought coached very well. You hope in year 2 he kind of buttons that up. I'm thinking, correct me if I'm wrong, the Oregon-Washington game, there was a flubbed decision there that kind of cost the end. So, I mean, if he can kind of get that right, and obviously losing Dellingham is a big loss, but if they can
that is a big one.
stay the course, I mean, they're always year in and year out going to be one of the top PAC teams.
And that's an underrated storyline. Dillingham leaving, he kind of, played the role of resurrecting Bo Nix's career, because you ask any Auburn fan how they felt about him going back to Oregon. It's a little bit more hectic on that. So Dillingham really played the part in that. New offensive coordinator in from University of Texas San Antonio. Let's see how he fares. I got to get some UCLA talk in. We're here, UCLA Bruins. We got to speak to Chip today, which is really cool.
For like 25 minutes.
Yeah, the most media-accessible Chip Kelly has ever been in our times of covering him. Yeah. It was awesome. I think he's, being more media-friendly because he knows he's got a damn good football team this year. The front seven's loaded. Mokiao-Atimalala is here, a guy that many are predicting with Braylon Trice to maybe lead the Pac-12 in sacks. Ironically, he was at Washington before he came down here.
That's right.
Yeah.
So can you imagine if both those guys were still on the same team? I mean, that is just a fearsome pass rush. Give me your thoughts on the Bruins. I'm going to start with you to my right. Talk to me about what UCLA can bring.
Yeah, it's always interesting, not even just the position of quarterback, but as a leader. Whenever you lose someone that's been a starter for so long, right, talking about DTR, but also, again, back to the theme of the transfer portal. Think about how big Zach Charbonnet was for them last year.
Massive.
Yeah.
So, again, that's another big part that you're looking to replace. Now, the talent's going to be there, and sometimes it feels like, to me, I'd really be interested to hear what you guys think about this too, that sometimes people forget UCLA is also making this move to the Big Ten. It's not just USC. And so I feel like, to an extent, while they might not say it and there's no really way to quantify it, I think UCLA also wants to make that big splash too. You talk about USC wanting to be, hey, our last year in the Pac-12, we were the champions. We're walking out the champs. Well, UCLA, I think they want to get that buzz going for them as well too, in certain ways, while they make that move as well. So, no, I think it's going to be really interesting to watch them. And, of course, whenever that cross-city matchup happens later in the year, it's going to be a blast to see.
It's going to be fun, man. And people forget, they do not have Oregon. They do not have Washington on their regular season schedule. If they can get by Utah, week 4, it's at Utah. It's a bear of a game. It's not easy to walk into Salt Lake City and get a W. But if they can come out being 4-0, they really only have Oregon State in the way of a USC matchup down the line. So there's a real chance that not only could they be playing at the end of the season in the rivalry game, they could also be competing for the Pac-12 championship when all is said and done. So UCLA, people are sleeping. What do you think about the Bruins, man? I know we talk about them all the time, but we got to branch out here a little bit. Let's give the people what they want. We're talking about UCLA.
We talk about this all the time, and we love Chip Kelly, and I think he's such a great coach, and he's even better off the field than he is on the field, maybe, for that program and for those young student athletes. But when just talking football, and you can obviously poke back to last year, but if they can just eliminate that bad loss, eliminate that Arizona loss of last year, it just kills all the momentum. And this is a team that, in my opinion, has the talent, even with not knowing who the quarterback is, that could absolutely be there for Rose Bowl and maybe even playoff aspirations. Maybe I'm coming across a little biased, but the defense is the most talented it's ever been under Chip Kelly. I think the fact that Deontay Lynn is the highest paid DC they've ever had at the program says a lot about what they think about him. He has a lot of veteran coaching around him with Ken Norton Jr. They bring in, you said his name, Grant, I'm not going to try, but the old Navy coach to be kind of a senior advisor, and just that's such a huge,
Ken Niumatalolo.
Such a huge addition there. And you asked Chip about it in the scrum, and you could see Chip just light up about what a huge addition that is. And so if they can just get above decent quarterback play, which I think they can, because Garbers is extremely talented. If Dante Moore ends up starting, that just shows what they think of him. I mean, this is a team that if they eliminate a bad loss, they're absolutely going to be there at the end.
They'll be there at the end, man.
I'll say on that note too, you're talking about coaches. Shout out Cody Whitfield, who is now their DB's coach, was my teammate at Stanford, and I've heard nothing but amazing things. He also, he was on Coach Taylor's staff at Sac State for a little bit too. So, so happy for him. He's back at home. I know he's loving it.
Love that hire.
Yeah, shout out Cody.
Man, shout out Cody. I'm going to give you guys one more question before we leave. Give me your offensive and defensive player of the years for Pac-12. I'm going to start with you to my right.
All right, offensive. I think for a lot of reasons that we talked about, Michael Penix is going to be
That's
my
my pick,
offense. It's the fact of, again, that continuity, not just with Kalen DeBoer coming in, for a second year, but a lot of those weapons that we saw them be really explosive, make a lot of plays down the field with, they're coming back. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And like I said, especially the defense can pick it up even more. I feel like if they can get some more stops here and there, you give more opportunities for Penix to put up even more numbers, you might be looking at a historic season.
Yes.
And then on the other end of it, I'd say it's going to be Mokiao-Atimalala. I have to go with it. You know me, I'm a pass rush guy at heart.
Yeah.
And so, whenever you can bring back a double-digit sack guy for another year with all the tools that he has, both, athletically, but then also his approach to pass rushing, I think that's just something really special, and then so it can be really dangerous.
Yeah, love the picks. Who do you got, Ryder?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to sound copycat and homerish, but got to go Latu for defensive. Heard him talking to media earlier, and his goal is 16 sacks this year. I mean, if he even comes close to that or surpasses it, it's going to be hard not to give it to him. And just his story is, hard not to root for, whether you're a UCLA fan or not. Offensively, I think it's probably going to come down to Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, and Michael Penix Jr., just like it did last year. I think Jaden DeLora, if all the off-the-field stuff takes care of itself, he's a kind of a sleeper guy that I love him at Arizona. We didn't talk about Arizona at all. They're kind of my sleeper team as well. And
recruiting class.
Yeah, great recruiting class, great transfer class, and he's got a lot of weapons down there. But, unless Caleb takes a huge, I don't want to say step back, but unless there's just the running game is so much more involved. I just can't see him not being the top guy at the end.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, so many talented options. The only thing I'm worried about with Caleb is I think USC is legitimately going to be blowing teams out this year. It's are we going to see Caleb in the second half, knowing that he's
mouse action,
knowing that he is the closest thing we've had to a guaranteed number one pick since your Trevor Lawrence, a couple years ago.
Yeah,
so if they're up 28-0 going into the third quarter, odds are we're not going to see him if it's a game they feel like.
And we saw it 3 times last year.
Exactly, man.
Definitely.
Yeah, so you got that option. Bo Nix. My sleeper is Buckey Irving, running back for Oregon. This guy averaged 7 yards a carry, was a menace on the ground. I think they're going to pivot to more of a ground game with Oregon this year. I know they got Bo Nix, but running the football is something that I think Oregon has a really good chance at leading the conference in this year, and Buckey Irving's going to be at the top of that list. I want to give some running backs love, especially after these contracts coming out.
Give them love while they can get it.
Give some love to these running backs, man. So I got to give Buckey Irving some shine there. Latu is my pick. It's UCLA, but some other guys. Mason Cobb, I mean, we talked about him. There's a legitimate case for him being maybe the best linebacker, west of Alabama this year in all of college football. I think that's a real case there. And, just Braylon Trice, Washington. Yeah. This guy is legitimately a top 10, top 15 NFL draft pick a lot of people are talking about. So you can't keep him out of the things, but boys, I just want to say.
The last player I'll mention, going back to USC, that I don't think is getting enough love, transfer from Arizona, Kion Bars, mountain of a man. Dude,
very big. Justin Flo, too, if we want to bring him into the equation. Oregon transfer.
So,
but boys,
a lot of good players.
This has been a lot of fun. First Pac-12 Media Day.
Absolutely.
We want to welcome you out to this, man.
Thank you.
A lot of fun. Ride or Die. This is probably our last one, unfortunately. But we had a blast.
See you in Chicago next year.
Yeah, we'll see you guys at Big Ten Media Day next year. But, just such a fun time. And, we love coming out here and covering UCLA and USC and everything that goes with the Pac-12. So a lot of gratitude to our final Pac-12 Media Day. And, fellas, I just hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. We're going to be heading home very soon here. So
enjoy the 115-degree weather.
It's beautiful Vegas, man.
Hit a late afternoon pool or something.
Bruin Bible, we are officially out.
Thompson-Robinson heaving one down the sideline, and he's got Kazmeir.
You're listening to the Bruin Bible. This is your host, Will Decker, bringing you UCLA football content all throughout the year for LA Football Network.